Okay, as they say in Texas or Jerusalem, shalom y'all. Good to be back. Um, we are here on the 12th of November, and I'm very happy to be well. Yesterday I had my pacemaker checked out again, the periodic checkup on the pacemaker. My heart is still working. I still have a heart. So I'm okay. I'm happy to be alive. I thank God every day for that. And I'm constantly watching TV, listening to the radio. We are kind of, at least here in the Jerusalem area, we are being spared the very heavy missile barrage every day, once or twice a day, up in the Haifa area and western northwest Galilee. I cannot tell you because I don't know what the Israeli army is doing. I know that the Israeli army every day is discovering tunnels and discovering all kinds of hiding places that would have been a disaster had God not intervened and forced us to go first into Gaza and then to go into the south of Lebanon. So we are now grinding down. I think I used this word many times in past shows. We're still grinding Gaza down, or shall I say the Gaza terrorists. The reports we receive, I don't know how much you can believe it, but the Gaza Arabs are cursing Hamas every day. They are not happy living in tents. It's very simple. If Hamas would just release the 101 hostages, we could start thinking about giving them a life again. But they're still firing anti-tank rockets at us and killing our soldiers. We lost 5 soldiers today. So it's a very sad situation with Gaza. The situation in Lebanon is the same, that they're firing missiles at us every day. The Russians and the Iranians are providing weapons or have been providing weapons on such a massive scale that it had to be God who would save us from what was happening in Gaza, what was happening in the south of Lebanon. The latest news I picked up a few minutes ago on the Israeli TV is that in Tehran, in Iran, the Iranians are now digging tunnels underneath their major government buildings so that their leadership has a place to flee to when the Israelis come and bomb the next time. So I think it's fair to say that the Iranians are very, very afraid of what Israel is about to do to them. From what I understand, again, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes in Washington, especially now with the transition over to the Trump administration. Personally, I think Trump wants this thing finished before he comes into the White House. The question is President Biden going to seek retribution against Israel for having gone against his word don't so many times? Or will Biden wake up and say, you know what, the Israelis have been right all along and I'm going to help them in the last 2 months? So we don't know where Biden stands now. We know pretty much where Trump stands, but we have to wait till the 20th of January. So meanwhile, the Israeli administration is doing the best it can to move forward as fast as possible. But on the other hand, we can't move too fast because we have tunnels. We have to basically go through every house, not just village, every house in the south of Lebanon and search for tunnels, because the tunnels lead to massive amounts of weaponry under the ground and escape tunnels and tunnels, attack tunnels from which they can attack the north of Israel. And, I have to repeat, I participated, I'm not saying this in a boastful manner. I received information in 1996, in November 1996, after Netanyahu was elected the first time. I had received information from Messianic people in Denver, and they told me that Hezbollah was preparing for an attack on Israel, and that Hezbollah was going to occupy the north of Israel at least for 3 full days. That was in November 1996, when I participated in an Army spokesman's course. In 1993, we were told that in Gaza they were digging tunnels. So this business of the tunnels was going on 30 years. And if my commanders in the Israeli army had told me about this, it meant that the top leaders knew about the tunnels. They knew about the tunnels in Lebanon. They knew about the tunnels in Gaza. 30 years. And we kind of said, well, let them attack first, because the world is always against us. The problem is they attack, and the world is still against us. And of course, you heard about what happened in Amsterdam. You know, I was born in 1949, but I grew up in the 50s. I was a young boy and watching all these documentaries about Nazi Germany and what the Nazis did to the Jews in Amsterdam and other places. So it's kind of like twice in my lifetime. I'm exaggerating, of course, but you know, I lived the Holocaust a little later. I lived World War II a little later, even though I was born in 1949. I grew up with the music of Richard Rodgers' Victory at Sea, Battle of Guadalcanal, Battle of Midway. All these battles, I know them by memory simply because I was a history freak and I love the music. So now we have what's going on in Amsterdam, and I think you all know, I'm sorry to bore you guys, but I think you all know that in 2009, I was invited to speak in Switzerland to the Christian EDU political party, and I helped the people in Switzerland to vote down an initiative called the Minaret Initiative. You can look it up, Minaret Initiative. Avi Lipkin, Schweiz, Avi Lipkin in Switzerland. And I got a 3-year jail sentence for talking against Islam. This was 2009, you know, 15 years ago. Europe is like the Titanic just before it goes under the water. Europe is sinking. I think that the election victory of Donald Trump is a reaction to the crazy defeatist behavior of the crazy left. And the American people said enough is enough. It's not about Israel. It's about America going down the tubes. Of course, Israel is America's best ally in the Middle East. So all I can say is God brought us back to Gaza, something we did not want. We still don't want it, but we have no choice. We have nobody to hand Gaza over to. We didn't want to take the south of Lebanon a 4th time. But every time we give it back, we are forced to retake it. Because the bottom line of Islam is kill every Jew on the face of the earth. That's on Saturday. And kill every Christian on Sunday. So I really don't understand what the problem is here for people in the West. I think it's just people do not have the exposure that they need to have to understand the threat. And that's because the media is owned by the money that the Muslims have. And the banks and the corporations and all these things and the universities are totally controlled by money, you know, from Doha. So, we here in Israel, we have a leadership also, part of the leadership, not Netanyahu's leadership, the ultra-left generals, they're bought out by Islam. They're bought out by the money of the West, of the Islamic countries. Who's giving them the money? Washington, because Washington is getting the money from Qatar and from the Islamic world. So the situation is a bad situation, but God intervenes every time to save us. And I think in the case of the elections of President Trump, to save America from itself also. So I'm so pleased. I don't have to tell you how pleased I am with the elections. And I've been praying for a Christian revival in America so many years. These last 4 years have been very difficult for me because what it showed me for 4 years is that all the work I was doing was for nothing, because if the majority of Americans voted for Biden and Kamala Harris, we had a problem. But the problem was fixed a week ago, so I'm very, very pleased about that. We are still waiting to see what happens with Iran. I don't know if Biden has our back or not. I think Biden has our back if we get attacked by Iran. So that maybe that's one of the reasons that we're not attacking Iran. Just to tell you something, where we live in Kedar, we have a WhatsApp for the people who live in Kedar. And we received yesterday a message for all the people living in Kedar to remind them that the shelters, the air raid shelters, have to be in shape for what's about to happen. That's the message we got last night. So I don't know if and when it's going to happen, but I have a feeling that the Israeli military is on edge. The Israeli military is ready. I think we're coordinated, even with the Biden administration. And don't forget, the U.S. military is the U.S. military. U.S. military always marches in lockstep with Israel. The problem is the political problem from the White House. So, people are asking me, so when are you coming back to the States? So I can't leave here if thousands of missiles are hitting Israel. And so, I can always send Rachel out to defend me, but I think it's my job to defend her. So we're okay. We're not lacking for food or any of our necessities. Things are quiet in our area. We're east of Jerusalem, so it's not an area. There are many Arab villages surrounding us, so I don't think they're going to send missiles into that area where we are here. The missiles are mostly on the coast and in the north. The missiles that were coming into Israel from Gaza have stopped. So in that sense, Israel has already had the victory in Gaza. What we're having now in Gaza is a mopping up operation. Mopping up operations are also dangerous. But like I said before, the worst is over as far as Gaza is concerned. Now the next stage is Lebanon. I personally have a feeling they launched 200 rockets yesterday, the Lebanese. I think that the Lebanese, if they launch 300, 400, then the Iranians will launch also 300, 400. So they're going to try to overwhelm us with almost 1,000 rockets and missiles. So we're here. It's a quiet time now, and weather has been nice. We haven't really had much rain at all the last month or so. This is the rainy season in Israel. So we already had our former rain. The latter rain is in April. And so we're, waiting to see where everything goes the next few days. And that's pretty much the update. And I'm ready to handle any questions you might have.
Avi, what's a good source for tracking acts of anti-Semitism statistics across the world? I saw yesterday the Israeli government put out, different levels of risk in different countries. What's a good source we could use for tracking?
Well, I get maybe 5 to 10 different emails from different organizations every day. I read one and then I pretty much erase the rest because it's always just repetition of the same information. I'm trying to remember. I always blank out when you ask me that question. But what I will do, I think, Lori, I send you interesting emails or information emails every day or whenever I get them. I just get tired of hitting that, reply button or forwarding button. But if people want, they can send me an email to vicmord 2001@yahoo.com, and I will put them on my list and add them to the information.
It just seems like there should be some source of, where people are tracking.
Yes, there is Israel National News is one of them. Israel Video something is one. Once you hit one, you get all of them.
Yeah.
But I'm always, My wife gets very, very fed up with me because all day I'm on the telephone or on the computer. I'm on the computer and the telephone and the mainframe computer, checking out all the emails because I get so much information.
Because it seems like it's not just the Netherlands, right, that's increasing.
You know what? You can keep talking if you want. I'll put on my telephone and I'll see. I'll rattle off a few names here. Okay, just to give you an idea. And now I'm getting so many things from Trump also, and that's important to follow also. Okay, if you have a pencil and paper, Jihad Watch is very good. Jihad Watch. Now I have to skip through all the Washington things I'm getting. Then there's TJV News. TJV is the Jewish Voice.
Mm-hmm.
The Jewish Voice gives you also American politics. Skip that. Team Trump, Restore American Glory. You can see the kind of emails I get. Jihad Watch. Conservative Christians. How's that?
How's that?
By the way, there's something very interesting which covers news from all over the world called Quora, Quora, Quora Digest. Robert Spencer is very good. Robert Spencer has a lot of news.
So on the anti-Semitic acts, of violence in particular in different countries, do you think, or has it already started, of increasing aliyah?
Yes, it's minor. Here's another one, Israel Video Network. Then there's another one, World Israel News. Okay, now then there's Middle East Forum. I just throw that one. This last year, we had 31,000 immigrants. The year before was I think it was like 15,000 or 20,000. Now this year it was 31,000. I'm very, very confident that we're going to be up to 40, 50,000 in the coming year. And we still have not gotten to the tsunami. I've been warning about a tsunami of immigration from all over the world to Israel. And but it's coming. It's coming. Even in Brooklyn, in New York City, an Orthodox Hasidic man was walking on Sabbath with his two kids,
Mm-hmm.
and a hooded terrorist came by and grabbed one of the sons, but the father held on so tight that the terrorist released the son. So there was a miracle there that the son was not kidnapped. And actually, the New York City police arrested this man. The problem is that they are so brazen, and there are so many of these terrorists floating around. And they say to the Orthodox Jews, don't go with a kippah on your head, or don't have any Jewish signs on your body. What about these Hasidic Jews who have these side curls on their faces? And they dress in a certain way. So, you have terrorists in their neighborhood who are just waiting for them, waiting for a weak moment. I don't know. I'm really praying for a Christian revival in America, which will put a stop to this nonsense, because the police in New York City have become so tolerant of so many things. You have to really fight for your rights when you're living in New York. If anything happens, the police, they don't react unless there's pressure on them to react. I'm really, really happy that Trump is reelected. I'm hoping that things will be straightened out very soon. There's someone here, Jeff Pelletier, said Anti-Defamation League, ADL. They also have information on Islam. So check out. There are a lot of American, very, very good American websites, which also talk about terrorism. When I was traveling around the U.S. all the time, every town every county, every state I went, I was picking up information and I was broadcasting it everywhere I was. My 7 books are basically news reports from my experiences in 47 of the 48 continental states, in Canada and Europe, and this business of anti-Semitism in Europe and in America and in Canada. I've been receiving this information now since day one, 35 years ago. So it's not anything new for me. I actually came back to Israel, reported to my commanders. But the point is, the Israeli military, until recently at least, or maybe even until now, never really gave a second thought to the Jews and the dangers facing the Jewish communities overseas. Maybe now they're beginning to believe it or not. We have a saying in Israel that Israel loves Aliyah, but Israel hates Olim. Israel loves immigration, but we hate the immigrants. I'll tell you, 55 years, it's not been easy for me. And ever since I was fired from the Prime Minister's office because of my right-wing political views, it was you Christians who took me in and gave me work, kind of like Joseph was kicked out of the Holy Land by his brethren, and he went to Egypt, eventually became viceroy of Egypt under the Pharaoh. So America today is kind of like Egypt in those days, and it was a blessing for the Jews. And Joseph was a blessing to the Egyptians because of the 7 years of famine. So God has a reason for everything. And Joseph even said, what happened to me, he said to his brethren, he said, what happened to me was not something that I'm angry about. It's something that God had a reason for it. Mm-hmm. And God had a reason for me to be 35 years traveling around the U.S., Canada, and Europe. And thank God for El Al. Because of El Al, I could do it back and forth all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of the news reports and everything. What I'm wondering is a place that keeps the statistics to show that, where we can point people to see, like, look at the growing number of, this many in Holland, this many in Switzerland, this many, actually keep statistics, hard statistics, where we can point people to that, saying, like, right, you have to see that this number's growing, not individual news reports,
Right. Well, the reports about immigration come out a year later. So what we do have the last time we received the number of immigrants was 31,000, and that was like a month ago. But as it is now, there are many more people reporting for Aliyah. And if you want it, every time I get some new number, I'll give it to you. But, without praising myself or praising the Judeo-Christian Bible Bloc Party, you have 6 million Jews in America married to 4 million non-Jews or Christians. That's 10 million people. And you still have another 2 million Jews floating around and also married to Christians. So we have the potential of doubling and even tripling our population. There's also a movement of the Sephardic Anusim. Anusim are the people who were Jewish 400 or 500 years ago in Spain and Portugal, and they were forced to convert to Catholicism. Then when they came to the new world, America, South America, North America, Mexico, a lot of these people slowly but surely started coming back to their Jewish roots. Anusim means those who were raped, those who were forced to convert or face death. So I'm in touch with different Anusim groups. A pejorative term is Marranos. Marranos means pigs, because that's what the Christians call these so-called converts to Christianity. We could triple our population if we accepted these people. These people can prove they've gone to the Catholic archives, Catholic Church, and they found their family names. They found who they came from 500 years ago. There are people who have done family trees and said, we want to go back to who we were. And I'm going to say something now, which has gotten me into a lot of trouble here in Israel. For me, I look at Christians like I look at Jews. I see the Jews. It says in Romans 15, the Jews and the Christians are the tree. We are the olive tree. The Jews are the roots, the Christians are the branches. And I did an interview, a podcast, with a very, very important man here in Israel. I won't mention his name because I have great respect for him. When I said that 10 million Jews and Christians are going to move to Israel, he turned off the interview. But the point is, if you have Jews married to Christians, I cannot see Jews fleeing from America, Canada, Latin America, or Europe, fleeing to Israel, leaving their Christian spouses behind and their children. So Israel has to bring in these people, give them the opportunity to convert to Judaism if they want to. If they don't want to, let them be Christians. But I believe our population will grow from 10 million to 20 million to 30 million. And the war in Gaza and the war in Lebanon are the first signs of Israel growing to its God-commanded borders from the Nile to the Euphrates. You know, I have to tell you, I mentioned this a few times in the last few weeks. I have a friend in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a Muslim country, but this guy is a Hindu. They have a Hindu minority there, and his wife is Christian. So he's not a Muslim terrorist. He's a Hindu. He saw me on BBC in the Bangladesh language, Bengali. And my face, and I was talking about Israel's borders from the Nile to the Euphrates. And then he brought in a whole lot of Israeli politicians after me. But I started the show on BBC, Avi Lipkin, the guy who says the borders will go from the Nile to the Euphrates. If you want me to explain it, give me 2 or 3 hours, I'll explain it. But I think that's where we're heading. So the growth of the Israeli population will be double and triple thanks to immigration. And by the way, the Messiah is not coming only for the Jews. The Messiah is coming or returning to Jerusalem for everybody. Anyway, I see Angela is writing about Amsterdam. Everything that's happening now in Europe is, I've been predicting this for the last, 20 years. And I don't want to take the credit. I wasn't predicting it. Rachel was predicting it. Rachel is saying, these politicians don't know anything, and those politicians don't know anything, and this is what's really happening. And she was telling me from her work. In my second book, Christian Revival for Israel's Survival, 1999, I write about universities in America being taken over by Muslim money so that the universities would give out visas to students from Muslim countries to come to America, marry Christian women, have children with them, and you have a birth bomb of Muslims in America. So I wrote about it in Christian Revival for Israel's Survival. I said in 1999 that Christians have to wake up to stop this. The Jews in America, America is a Judeo-Christian country. Nonsense. America used to be a Judeo-Christian country. Now America is a Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu country. And I think the Hindus actually may be more than the Jews today. And I don't dislike the Hindus. I love them. But the point is the Jews are decreasing, relatively speaking, in America. And the Muslims are number 2. Obama spoke about this in January 2009 in his inauguration speech, that America is a Christian Muslim country. This is happening throughout Europe as well. This is happening in Latin America. It's happening in Africa. It's happening in Asia. It's happening everywhere. Now you got me stirred up. Anyway, thank God for President Trump. Thank God for the American people that voted for him. And I'm just hoping that Biden won't make any stupid moves in the next 60 days. That Biden will coordinate with Trump and with Netanyahu, and that Israel will be able to do the right thing.
So, Avi, maybe I can redirect and get your opinion on Yoav Gallant's replacement, Israel Katz. and his overtures, or at least his expression stating that the war in Lebanon is over, and then also Saudi Arabia aligning with Iran, at least verbally. Can you just give us your opinion on that?
Sure. We were watching this today also. Firstly, I want to start with Mohammed bin Salman. Mohammed bin MSB, MBS, excuse me. Mohammed bin Salman is the viceroy. He's the regent. His father is very infirm. And unless ISIS kills him, which I think is what's going to happen, he's going to try to modernize Saudi Arabia. And part of the plan of modernizing Saudi Arabia is opening it up to the West. Of course, Mohammed bin Salman is putting on a show about relations with Israel. But every time he does that, he goes back to the bottom line and says, but there has to be a Palestinian state, which means he's fantasizing, because there will never be a Palestinian state, period. So that's Mohammed bin Salman. His verbiage today at this conference was horrible. It was very anti-Semitic, very anti-Israel. And I don't know, Neil, if you heard me in past Zooms, but I'm talking about a civil war in Saudi Arabia that ISIS takes over, kills the royal family. They kill King Abdullah of Jordan, take over Jordan. And then the caliphate is reborn in Saudi Arabia and in Jordan. And then Israel really has a big war to worry about. That can happen anytime somebody pulls the trigger and kills MBS. Now, regarding Lebanon, the war in Lebanon is definitely not over. We got 200 rockets yesterday. The rockets are coming from areas still not yet under Israeli control. The war will only be over when Israel conquers all these areas, even in the north of Lebanon, and neutralizes the capability of Hezbollah to launch rockets at the center of Israel. Their rockets can hit a lot. Their rockets can hit the south of Israel. So the war is not over. The war, what you are referring to perhaps, is that the world is pressing Israel for a ceasefire. But I don't think that the ceasefire is going to happen. Hezbollah refuses any of the overtures of Israel. Israel's going to keep shooting away until we are going very slowly, very methodically, to clear out these tunnels from every house. Every house has a tunnel to clear out enough weaponry there for the Israeli army. This could be Israeli military equipment. I think what we're doing is we're blowing most of it up. Israel eventually will reach the Litani River to the north, which is about 6 miles north of the Israeli border. And then after the Litani, if they keep shooting at us, we're going to continue to the Awali. Awali is another river to the north, another 6 kilometers, 10 kilometers. Then there's the Zaharani River. And then there's Beirut. We've been in Beirut before. And these Hezbollah, they're just as crazy as Hamas. They're like, forgive me for offending the Japanese, but they're like kamikaze soldiers. For them, surrender is a no-go. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm taking this step by step, day by day. And from what I see Israel has no choice. But we have to lose soldiers. We have to lose our soldiers in battle against crazy suicide psychopaths.
Thanks for your opinion, Avi. Appreciate that.
I wish we had a ceasefire. I wish we could bring our soldiers home. The problem is, our demand is that the south of Lebanon be neutralized. The south of Lebanon have no terrorist infrastructure to shoot at Israel. We want all of Lebanon to be without terrorist infrastructure, because the Christians of Lebanon and the Sunnis of Lebanon and the Druze of Lebanon, they don't want these Shiite crazies either. And the only one who's going to help Lebanon is Israel. So I don't really think it's like, you know what, you're making a cake and you're putting the cake in the oven. And a minute after you put it in the oven, people think, okay, ceasefire, pull the cake out. The cake isn't finished. The battle isn't finished. And these people are not ready to make peace with us. What does God have to say about that? I mean, you're a believing person. We're all believing people. We all believe in God. We all believe in the Bible. So if you read the Bible and you study God's word, you know what's going to be. But thank you, Neil. Good question. Good questions. Good points.
Thank you. We appreciate your response.
You know what? I've been in Israel 55 years. And more important than all of that, God gave me a wife who knows everything. Isn't it horrible? I hate it when my wife knows everything. But I surrender. She knows everything. What can I do? Every time she says this or that, it happens. And I'm still a dreaming American who thinks like a Westerner that everything is possible and you can make peace and everything will be lovey-dovey, kumbaya. Nonsense. You're dealing with satanic psychopaths. I think Trump gets it. Biden never really got it. And Kamala, I don't know where she came from, but she's completely out of the picture. And the Americans smelled it and saw it and tasted it and said, we don't want it.
This is saying, after the mud, you need to prime before you paint.
You need to what? You said something? I heard somebody say something before you paint.
Yeah, he said you have to prime before you paint.
What is that? Scrape off the old stuff?
Yeah, and put on primer.
Ah, yes. Okay. Well, it just shows you how ignorant I am about keeping house, maintaining the house.
Avi, can I make a comment about something that was brought up?
Sure.
I have the opinion that in the book of Revelations, where it speaks of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, it says there's a white horse. I believe that's Catholicism. It's everything in that is either a political or a cultural representation. The white would be the Catholics. And when you look at the emblem, a man on a white horse with a cap and everything about the Pope is white. You go to the black horse, that's capitalism, which would be America. It has a balance. You don't want to be in the red, you want to be in the black. Then you go to the red horse. I believe that it represents communism. In Red China, Russia, whatever. And then it speaks of a pale horse, but the word there really is chloros, which means green. And I think that green represents the Muslim. So, because they use green in a lot of their paintings. So, my understanding of that all four of those are going to be, we're going to be in operation in the end time, and I think that's right where we're at right now.
I've heard this before, and I would tend to agree. Definitely, the pale horse, green horse could be Islam.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, good friends?
Hi, Avi, it's Angela.
From Jersey.
Yes.
As long as it's not New Jersey. Yeah.
No, sadly not.
Actually, actually, New Jersey has become a flip state. In other words, the next elections, it could very well go over to the Republicans. So
Yeah.
it's not Jersey anymore.
Yeah. I was watching it all. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
But, you
It's
know,
okay.
we all
We'll
knew
take,
what the outcome was going to be.
yeah.
It's very much the same in the UK. Everyone is so sick to death of this government. And I don't think Europe is in a better place either. Their citizens are fed up as well. So big changes coming. I doubt Keir Starmer's going to last for us to. They'll have to call a general election. But I was just going to say, regarding Laurie's question about figures and statistics, there is reports, these are UK figures, obviously, about the increase in anti-Semitic incidents. And last year they reached a record high. But this year, since the beginning of January, they've even beat that record. So it's called the Community Security Trust, and it recorded 4,103 anti-Jewish hate incidents, and that is up 1,162, and it's incremental every year since 22, 23, and now 24. So they are saying they have included an extra 416 incidents recorded since the 7th of October. But basically, every day in every police borough, there are incidents within the Jewish community. So the children are scared to go to school and things like that. It's really quite nasty. And I think that's across France, Germany, Norway, Sweden, and obviously Amsterdam, which we're now hearing was planned. They were very well organised. They were waiting for people on every street, on every corner, where they knew the route was going to be back to the hotels. And it's come out that there's an UNRWA employee is involved with this extremist group. So there's the link back to UNRWA and the UN. And they have some very extreme people working in that organisation. But the following day, I don't know if you got it on your news stations in the US or in Israel, the people of Amsterdam came out into the streets with their Israel flags. There was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and they sang Shema Israel, they sang the Hatikva in solidarity with what happened, because most of the citizens were totally shocked that this took place in such an organised fashion. And that has been, I think, a bit of a wake-up call for citizens across Europe. Because there's individual incidents, but this was a mass event, and the footage was really nasty. And the people were being made to say free Palestine before they were battered and run over even by vehicles, chased. Even one man was lying on the ground, clearly unconscious, and they were just kicking him and kicking him. It was disgusting. And that was a great shock, so much so that the UK is a big community in Manchester of Jewish people outside of London. They have a Christmas market there, and they had decided, the authorities, that they were going to put armed police, which is unheard of. So the threat level, they feel, has gone up. And even in London, where there's big events and things, I understand the Israeli government have said to their citizens that they would prefer them not to attend such things if they're in London because of the risk. The risk has gone up again now because of this incident in Amsterdam. So I think people are waking up, and I do think it's very likely that we'll have some copycat types that want to do that type of thing. wherever they get the opportunity, sadly. So I think it's difficult days. And if the government is weak and not showing any sign of abhorrence or a will to deal with this kind of thing, then that sends the message, doesn't it, that they can do it. Fortunately, Amsterdam has taken a very strong response and saying they're going to heavily prosecute and round up and arrest everyone they can find that was involved in this. So whether they do that remains to be seen. I know they have arrested some, but that a strong message needs to come out that it's not going to be tolerated. You know, we just had our remembrance service on Sunday, which takes place in London around the cenotaph. And I know there was lots of people that were just truly disgusted that at the same time that was going on, they were going to allow the pro-Palestinian Hamas flag bearers to march through the streets. Fortunately, there was no incidents that I'm aware of or was reported, but and the service went okay, everything was fine. But it's things like that that people are increasingly fed up with. And it's coming up in general conversations now. They are really fed up with it. So we shall see. So that's just a little bit of background from the UK, what we get on our news, and for your American listeners. Over and out.
Okay, my turn.
Yes, of course. Sorry.
You opened up a can of worms. You know the expression. I have to tell you, I have a lot to say, and it looks like we're going to go to the end of the program with this. I was once driving up from California to Canada, to Vancouver, and when I went across the border to Canada, I spoke in a farmhouse in Maple Ridge. Did I ever tell you this one or not?
I don't think I've heard this one, no.
No, and I was supposed to go on Monday up to a town called Kamloops. Have you been to Canada?
No.
Anyway, Vancouver to Kamloops, and then on Tuesday I was supposed to speak in Kelowna. Kelowna is very much like Tiberias, a beautiful lake, beautiful homes there. That was supposed to be Tuesday. And then Wednesday, drive on to Edmonton, Canada, which is in the province of Alberta. And anyway, while I was speaking Sunday in Maple Ridge in Vancouver, it was a farmhouse with room for 50 people. And there's a whole lot of commotion going on there. And I said, what's happening? What's the commotion? They said, well, Kamloops was it working with Kelowna to bring you, and the Jewish community or some leaders from the Jewish community blocked it and they canceled. The story later comes out that I finally did go to Kamloops and to Kelowna, and the president of the Jewish community was fired, but he still came to the meeting and heckled me. And it turns out that the Christians and the Messianics wanted to hear me, but this leader of the Jewish community vetoed it. Then finally, when I got there, the Jews in those towns came to hear me. And when the ex-president started heckling me, they threw him out because they said, you blocked him from coming last time, and we need to hear what this guy is saying. Anyway, Wednesday, I got up to Edmonton, and the rabbi there said to me, tell me what's a nice Jewish boy like you doing in Christian churches? And I said, listen, we're 5 billion Jews. At that time, we were 5 million Jews. The Islamic world was 1.5 billion. 5 million Jews is not enough. maybe if we had 100 million evangelicals on our side, that might help to level the playing field. So the rabbi said to me, you know, that's wonderful. God bless you. You're right. You should go. I would never step in a church, but if you go, God bless you that you go to the churches. Anyway, the next day, it was Shabbat. The next day in the synagogue, I got up to speak. I said, Avi Lipkin speaks 10 hours in Christian churches. We're going to let him speak 10 minutes during the meal, the kiddush, which comes after the prayer service. 10 minutes. What can I say in 10 minutes? So anyway, so I got up to speak. And again, two Jewish socialists, liberals with a capital L, started heckling me. And they said, we're not going to let you speak. This is in 1999. So anyway, I didn't speak. So a Christian lady who was attending the Jewish Orthodox synagogue every Shabbat, because Jesus went to synagogue. He didn't go to a Baptist church. He went to the synagogue. You want to know about Jesus? Go to the synagogue. So anyway, so she said, if you're not going to let Avi Lipkin speak, and if he agrees, I will speak. So I said, sure, you're not going to let me speak, you speak. They knew her, they liked her, they respected her. And this woman gave me one of the most important testimonies in my life. She got up and she says that she is a social worker for the government of Canada, and that she's a caseworker for an Egyptian Muslim woman doctor from Cairo, Egypt, in hiding in Canada with 24/7 RCMP protection and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And she said that the situation is like this. She was like a Mother Teresa. You remember Mother Teresa in India? Well, she was like a Mother Teresa in Egypt. And she dedicated her life to the poor people in Cairo. And she went to the mosque every day, 5 times she would go to pray. Everyone knew her in the neighborhood. People would come for treatment, and nobody had money. People would bring her eggs, cheese, or pita bread, and nobody had money. And she was in her 40s. She was single, never married. And she decided to emigrate to Canada because at least there she could work 20 years, maybe more. And she could retire with some kind of retirement fund, you know, because she had nothing in Egypt. So the day after she applied for a visa, it was approved by the Canadians. There was a knock on her door, and it was 3 holy men from the mosque, 3 terrorists. And they said to her, congratulations. We know you're going to Canada. We heard this. We know everything about you, and you're going to work for us. And so the woman doctor said, what do you mean work for? Well, yes, you know, you're going to have a clinic in Edmonton, Canada. And you're going to know every Jew, every Christian, every Muslim in Edmonton. You're going to be the most important woman in Edmonton. And when the Jews and Christians come to you, you will take down their names, addresses, telephone numbers, place of employment, telephone numbers. You're going to put this, write this down, give it to us for our data bank. We are going to catalog every Jew and Christian in Edmonton. And even the Christians who love Israel, we will kill. We will kill all the Jews. And then the Muslims of Edmonton will kill the Jews of Edmonton. The Muslims of Vancouver will kill the Jews of Vancouver. Muslims of Toronto will kill the Jews of Toronto. And also, we will kill all the pastors and all the Christians who love Israel, or anyone who smells of the Jews. They will all be killed. And so this doctor looked at them and said, listen, you know, I go to the mosque every day. I feed the poor. I heal the sick. I am not interested in politics. And not killing people, of course, not killing people. And they said, I think somebody has to unmute.
Yeah.
Please unmute whoever's talking. So anyway, so she said that I'm going to, you know, I don't believe in killing anyone, even the Jews. And so standing next to her was another Muslim woman helping her in the clinic. And these 3 Muslim terrorists grabbed her and slit her throat in front of the doctor. And they said to her, if you don't work for us, this is what we're going to do to you. Next day, she had asylum in the Canadian embassy in Cairo, Egypt. The Royal Canadian Air Force flew in a private plane to pick her up and bring her to Edmonton. And this Christian woman attending the Jewish Orthodox synagogue in Edmonton is telling me that she works with the police, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And they know that the day will come when every Jew will be hunted down in the streets of Canada, and by extension, the United States, and by extension, all the European countries. All the Jews will be cataloged, and they will be hunted down and killed in the streets until every Jew is dead. I put this in my book in 1999. Do you think anyone's listening to me? The Israeli government, I told them, maybe somebody has it written down somewhere, but Israel is on the verge of a civil war, and I'm not on the ruler's side. I'm not on the side of the leftists. I'm on the side of the right wing, and we're not really in power. We win the elections, but the country is controlled by the left. Anyway, when there's a major war in the Middle East, like what we have now, this plan of killing all the Jews everywhere in the world will be put into action, also in the United States. And when I've written to the president of Israel, I told him that there are 30 million Muslims in America. I would say 10% are terrorists, 90% are on the surface good people. But 10% of 30 million is 3 million. You have 30 million militia members who are not Muslims, but 10% are anti-Semites. That's another 3 million. So you have 6 million people armed and ready to kill the Jews. You have the Black Lives Matter terrorists of Louis Farrakhan, who are Muslim. They're going to kill the Jews. And they're armed, and they're paid for by Islamic Jihad. Then you have Antifa, which is the ultra-left anarchists. And so I wrote a letter to the president of Israel and saying, we have to prepare for an immigration of 10 million Jews and Christians. And he didn't answer me until I wrote him a letter. I was very angry. I was very angry with him. I said, at least say thank you. And so he sent me a letter, thank you. That's the president of Israel. Then a few weeks later, I was coming to the United States, and before I got on the plane, I heard a report on Reshet Bet, on the Israeli radio, that the Israeli government has an emergency absorption plan for 500,000 Jews from the United States. Now you tell me, what's the difference between 500,000 and 10 million? There's no difference. Once you're talking about major numbers, there's no difference. So I predict a lot of Jews in America are going to die. And it will be incumbent on true believing Christians to protect the Jews and get them to Israel. And if a Christian marries a Jew, he's one of us. He will be killed, or she will be killed also. They all must come to Israel. And Messiah is coming to Jerusalem first or second time. Forgive me for saying this. I really don't care if it's the first or second time. The Jews and Christians together will receive the Messiah on the Mount of Olives. And our population is going to double and triple. And the war that we are in now with Gaza, with Lebanon, with Iran, with Syria, with Iraq, with Yemen, all of this is part of God's plan, which we did not want. We want to be left alone. But Israel's borders will go from the Nile to the Euphrates by God's plan. Israel's borders are going to, Israel's population is going to double and triple to 30 million. Listen, maybe I'm crazy, but that's what I see. The writing is clearly on the wall. And I'm not afraid anymore of being fired, because every job I had, I was like Rush Limbaugh. I always got fired for saying what I thought. Now God is my boss, so I say whatever I think God is telling me to say. Now, Angela, also I have to tell you, I was in Switzerland in 2009. I spoke in 23 German-speaking cities. They had a referendum. Referendum is like an election. See what the people decide. The Muslims were demanding to put up minarets alongside every mosque. 400 mosques, 400 minarets. And so the Swiss government said, let the Swiss people decide. So I was brought in. I spoke in 23 cities. I appeared on, if anyone on this Zoom knows German, go to Avi Lipkin, Schweiz, Avi Lipkin, Switzerland. There are like 10 reports there of my visit. And I got a 3-year jail sentence because the Muslims took me to court for saying that Allah is not God, Allah is the devil, Allah is Satan. And that Islam is not even a religion. Islam is a criminal psychosis bent on the destruction of the entire human race. And when they say Allahu Akbar, that does not mean God is great. Allahu Akbar means Allah is greater than the God of the Jews and the Christians. And it has to be made very clear, the God of the Jews and the Christians is not the same as the God of Islam. The God of Islam is Allah, and the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the God of the Jews and the Christians. Anyway, so that was in Switzerland. And the election results in November 2009, 57.5% of the Swiss voted against the Muslims. And my Swiss friends were saying to me, Avi, you saved Switzerland. But I still got a 3-year jail sentence because the Muslims went to the liberal courts, and probably the judges didn't have a clue what Islam was. The problem is you cannot teach anywhere what Islam really is because it's called hate speech. It's not hate speech. I'm just saying Allah is the devil. And I proved it, Allah is the devil. You have for 3 hours, I'll give you 3 hours on that. I can tell you about other countries in Europe in which I've been in. And Europe is being overrun, and it's being overrun with money, with immigrants. And, I have a Swiss friend who picked me up at the airport in Zurich. And while he was driving, he started crying. I don't know why I started crying. Then he said to me, you know what? We aborted 50 million babies here in Europe, and God gave us a gift. And because of that 50 million babies we aborted, 50 million Muslim immigrants. That's a gift from God. And he was crying because how stupid are the Europeans that they abort all their babies? You have to understand, I'm in so many countries and I get so many responses from so many people. So this is that happened in Amsterdam. I don't know if you heard it, but today in Amsterdam, they burnt a light rail train in the middle of the city. I don't know if you heard that. The riots are still continuing in Amsterdam. I think tomorrow night, Thursday night, there's a big soccer match in Paris, France. The Israeli team is going to play against the French team. You know what the police are doing? They're blocking off the stadium. All the 3,000 Israelis are going. They will be bused from the airport straight to the stadium. And from the stadium, they will be bused back to the airport and fly back to Israel. They will not be allowed to move around in Paris. Now, my son and my grandson went to Paris for a soccer game. They had a great time. Not anymore. So the French police are going to sequester all the Israeli tourists at the game, not let them go out, put them back in the buses, and then back to the airport and straight back to Israel. Because the French police have no way to control the Muslim mobs. This is the day after tomorrow. I don't know if you get this in your news, but if you get the emails that Lori was mentioning, okay, Neil, take care. If you go to the different websites, you'll get all these reports from Paris and other places where the Muslims are just ready to kill the Jews. I think it's just a sign of the times that the Jews have to come home with their Christian spouses, 80% intermarriage. Rabbis freak out when I say that Jews and Christians get married because that's God's plan. I mean, why do Jews and Christians intermarry if intermarriage is such a horrible thing according to the rabbis? Maybe because God wants the Jews and Christians together in Jerusalem on that day when the Messiah stands there. I don't know. I don't even know if I'll be alive at the time. But I know one thing, that Israel's population will double and triple, and our borders are going to grow. I hope I didn't bore any of you guys. Questions? Any more questions as we approach the end of this Zoom?
I just wanted to make a statement. You talk about the minarets. I used to live in Brentwood. That's the town right next to me. And the mosque, they put up minarets, but the town wouldn't give them permission to broadcast. You know?
Well, listen, I have to tell you a story. There's a town in Wisconsin called Sheboygan. I've never heard of Sheboygan. Very few Americans ever heard of it, but I've been there. The Muslims asked to build a mosque and to put up a minaret. And the stupid Jews and Christians who are liberals in that, and north of the United States is pretty liberal usually, allowed them to put up a minaret and a mosque, and broadcasting 5 times a day, including 4:30 in the morning, loud minarets with the broadcasters. And the Jews and the Christians picked up and left town. The Muslims took over.
Oh, no.
And that's what I said in Switzerland. If you give these people minarets, they're going to be blasting at 4:30 in the morning and into the night. It's noise pollution. But that's hate speech. You can't say noise pollution. The Islamic religion is noise pollution, but that's what it is. It is triumphalism over Judaism and Christianity and Hinduism and Buddhism. By the way, here in Israel, I'm afraid to talk because the Israeli government, the justice system, the police, everything is controlled by the left. So I could be thrown in jail here for these Zoom meetings. I don't care. God is telling me you got to get the message out. At least in America, you're still free to talk. I think under Kamala Harris being president, God forbid, that was what's going to happen in America. If you speak against Islam, it's hate speech. And Christianity is the enemy, according to Kamala Harris and Biden.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? I'm a Jew and I'm fighting for Christianity. Maybe they'll make me a saint. You never know. Any other questions? Fire away.
Avi, were you able to do your interview with Light of the Southwest on GLC?
I'm doing the interviews with GLC. I think I have it. I have one in 20 minutes. I usually have one at the top of the hour, right after this one.
Yeah, because you said last week you were going to have one scheduled or were rescheduling.
Actually, last week he had me on Monday instead of Tuesday because of the elections. I said to him, probably you don't want to have me on election day because you have so many other things going on.
Was it with Brian or with Holly and Eric?
Brand.
Okay.
1 second.
Because I wanted to go back and listen to it.
Oh, all of my interviews are posted. 1 second. Give me a second because he's not in messages, but I see that he sent me something on internet. Okay, he sent me a key at 4 o'clock, just as we were in the middle of the program. Yeah, so I have a show with him in a few minutes.
What time is it there in Israel now?
It is now 4:38 in the afternoon, and I have my show with him at 5.
Okay, thank you.
So unless there are no other questions, I think we will wrap it up. Lori, I see you unmuted.
Okay, shalom, shalom.
Shalom, y'all. See you next week, God willing.
Shalom,
Shalom. God bless you, Avi. Thank
Shalom,
you.
Avi.
Shalom.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.